Good morning, everyone. So happy to see that some of you are here already. Um, we'll be.
This was a YouTube live demonstration where I painted this beautiful snowy street scene, and that recording is over 1 hour in duration. So I thought I will upload this summarized version. But if you are interested in checking out the entire video and paint along with it, I will provide the description link in the description below. Please go check it out, and if you do follow this demonstration and paint along, please send me your paintings. I would love to check them out. So the first part of the painting process is planning the painting, which I've left as it is. So let's go and check out that planning.
I was talking earlier about why I like this photo because there was a lot of sunlight in this photo. Um, I originally intended to go out there and take some photos by myself, but unfortunately, the week was really overcast, so I couldn't take a nice photo. So um, let me show what I was talking about. So with the sunlight, we have all these sunny areas, and when there's sunlight, it naturally creates shadow. So we have these other areas which I'm highlighting in purple, all in shadow. So that I think will make this a really nice painting. And even last week, I talked about these vertical details. It's like these downpipes, they are going to make it really interesting. Uh, so I'm going to try and include these vertical details in our rendition of this scene. And apart from that, we have all these telephone wires or electricity wires. They are all over this painting. I think that will also make it interesting for us. So I think without further ado, we can uh, go and start our painting, I guess. So when we are going to paint something like this, I think it's really important to figure out what our shapes are. I think I described these shapes a little bit last week, how to identify these shapes. So let me see how I can identify the shapes in this photo today. So I think it's quite clear that this sky part is certainly one shape here. I'm going to call it shape number one. And we also have a clear cut building on this side here. This is another big shape which we can isolate. And on the left hand side, we have these two buildings. I'm going to consider both these buildings one shape, which I'm going to name shape number 3. Right? And then we have this building here, which will be shape number 4. And I'm just going to call the rest of the painting the other shape. So we have 5 big shapes which we are going to render, and yeah, within these shapes we'll find the medium and small shapes and find our details later. All right. And now another thing I want to sort of go through before we go and paint is trying to identify the perspective of uh, this photo so that we can render our buildings nicely. So you can see that the horizon line here is quite easy to identify because we actually sort of see the horizon. It's around around this area where that tree line is, and let's see how we can be sure that it is our horizon. So horizon line is where all these parallel lines would meet. So we can try to figure out what our parallel lines are. So this roof line, it goes like this. Okay, just gonna erase the horizon and redraw this. This roof line goes like this, and you can see these window sills here. They are parallel to the roof line. So let's connect those, and I found these other window sills, and like zoom in and see that these are window sills, and we know that they would be parallel uh, to the horizon level. So let's connect those as well, and they also go towards this point, and on the other side we can find something. Okay, I have a window sill here giving me a nice clue to how to find it, so I'm gonna do that. All right, there you go. So I can see that they all meet at the same place, so that means our horizon is over there. So I can be sure that that is my horizon line, and that's how I'm going to set my perspective. So after finding the perspective, what I'm doing here is going into the drawing stage. It's sped up uh, 20 times because I don't want to make this the most important part, because the important part is going and painting. What I will point out here is that I'm following those perspective lines that I marked up in the photograph earlier. So, so now with the drawing in hand, I'm going and adding watercolor. First, I'm adding blue to the sky, and while it's wet, adding some warm tones to make sure that the sky is not boring. Now I'm mixing a yellow to add to the buildings as a whole, because these buildings have a yellowish warm tint to it. And now that's a grayish blue watercolor wash for the road, while leaving some space there to show that there is snow. And I'm mixing a shadow color because I think I'm going to add the shadows. There you go. I'm adding the major shadows in the buildings, the cast shadows and the side of the building, and I'm smoothing that particular shadow which is at the corner of the building, and I'm adding shadows to the roof, but there you can see that I'm leaving space for the roof, the snow on the roof. And then I went and added a darker wash for the side building, the building on the right hand side. And now I'm going and adding those horizontal details, especially the gutters of the buildings. This will give the painting a bit of form, and then a little bit of shadows into the snow, those chimneys, those small shapes. Uh, but I'm not yet getting into the windows. That would be in the next part. Here now I think like that background area is a bit boring, so I'm trying to add a tree which is emerging behind from that building. So after I add this tree, I think I go and add some more trees which are emerging behind those chimneys, and I really think this was a really good choice for this particular painting. You can see that I have changed to a smaller brush and doing a more darker paint to go over that. Now I'm adding those leafless winter trees. Because it was dark, I'm going to go and darken the other tree as well, because they need to match. So this kind of details are okay. I don't know why I'm doing that. I'm adding the details of the windows in the buildings. Um, I think I'm going to go and touch up that tree later, if I remember correctly. So there you go. We have the windows. These are the medium-sized details in this particular painting. You can see that I'm trying not to make them particularly rectangular, just adding the notion of the windows and trying to make them not be quite the same, not be quite homogeneous. Oh, now this is the exciting part. Oh no, sorry. I thought I was adding these pipelines, but no, these are the windows on the side of the building, which are like just like small lines to give that notion of window, because on the side facing the street, we can't see the window. You just see the window sills and just a slit for those windows. And here I'm planning that particular window with the balcony, because this is going to be the focal point of this um, whole painting. So I want that particular window to be nicely detailed, and I can't mess that up, because the other windows you can just give a general notion, but this window I want details there. When I say details, it's not realistic details, but there should be a variety of information there in the window. And I'm leaving the balcony for later. Now you can see that I'm adding a bit of a warmer mix for the window on the sunny side of the building, because that side is getting a lot of sun, so the window also should represent that. I'm touching up stuff here and there as I go. It's never it's never like systematic when I'm painting, but yeah, you can see that in the complete recording if you wish to check that out. Or here, like this is where I'm mixing a really dark mix, because I thought that the building on the right hand side was not dark enough. Oh, okay, this is okay. Oh, okay, this mixture is for the downpipe, because there's rust, and uh, like these pipes are quite dark, so that's what I'm going to do with this mixture. You'll see what I was talking about the right hand side building later. So these downpipes are quite important, because these are the pretty much the only exciting vertical information in this painting, and I want them to work not just to show that they are downpipes, but to give shape to the buildings as well, and it will enforce the perspective. It's doing like so many things for my painting. And even then, like you can see that I'm not going to make these downpipes uniform either. There's going to be color variations, the sizes are going to be uh, different, and it's not just a single line. I'm just going and adding like a little bit of rust here and there. And you can already see on the right hand side building, there's downpipes added the definition to the building. That is so good. And yeah, still adding rust to that biggest downpipe, because that's going to be quite prominent in the painting. Okay, that's downpipes in the further distance. You can see that I'm spending a lot of times on these downpipes. Like if you take a building, like that's the least significant thing. But when you turn a scene into a painting, sometimes these like, not very significant components will become really integral components in your painting. So you can probably check out the longer video for all the logic that I'm describing. But here I'm trying to give an overview of what's happening. So this is where I change the color of the building in the for the background, because I want to show that this is not uh, just one building, but it's two separate buildings. And now I'm adding details on the right hand side building, but these details don't last a long time. You'll see what happens there. But like, because I don't know that I'm gonna get rid of these, so um, sticking to my perspective lines. Like, perspective lines are probably the most important part of a street scene, because it really enforces to the viewer that this is a street we are looking into. If your perspective is not on point, this is going to be seen. But like, sometimes you can warp the perspective to get interesting results. So there you go. Like, darkening those trees because I feel like they need a bit of darkening, and I'm going and darkening the other tree as well. Right now, like that I remember uh, in the live demo I was saying that now that part looks really good to me. Oh, now I'm adding the shadow of that downpipe. It also enforces the shape of the building a little bit, because like, our eyes are accustomed to how light and shadow work. So adding that shadow of the downpipe tells us something about the shape of the overall building. I'm adding the window sills and uh, those lines which separate the floors. I'm not sure entirely what it's called. I'm going and adding a little bit of details here and there. And yeah, I think at this point I'm a bit stuck at what else can I do, because I'm not entirely happy with the painting at this point. So you'll see that I'm doing something to make it better. See whether we are at that point yet. No, not yet. I'm just trying to perspective lines, and okay, maybe that's the mixture I'm looking at. I think I'm going to go and add a little bit of detail, like random detail, into the middle of that street, because there's nothing much. Oh, there you go. Like, I'm covering the other side of the page because I'm going to do a splat. Whenever I feel that I'm stuck, I feel like adding a splatter really loosens me up. So I'm just going ahead and adding that reddish brown splatter. Like, it's not very prominent, but it loosens me up. It helps uh, myself to loosen up. And I'm adding some random shapes at the middle, just to show that there's some stuff happening there, right? It's not too important that it has a specific shape or it represents uh, something one to one. No, it's just telling us that there's something happening there, but it's not that important. You don't need to know what is exactly happening. Just know that it's not an empty space. That kind of idea. So I'm adding a little bit of detail into those windows. Like, when I say details, it's not exact details. It's variation. So okay, I'm probably saying something about those two buildings which I don't remember. But I'm pretty sure, yeah, at the point where I go and change that right hand side building. Let's see. Yeah, I'm mixing a really dark mix. So I think I'm going to darken that right hand side. I wasn't exactly sure whether it would work, but I knew that it needed something, otherwise it would look boring. See, I'm going like really, really dark. When I say dark, it's not just black, it's black and that reddish brown. I think it is burnt sienna. I'll add that in the video description, the color. So yeah, black and burnt sienna, just so that it gives a dark border to the painting. That's why I like framed photographs and frame paintings look so much better because it brings your eye inside to the painting. So that's what I want to do with this particular element. I'm actually, like, at this point, I'm really scared whether it might not look that good, but I wanted to take the risk, because if you don't take risks, your paintings won't come out real good, because no matter uh, like no matter how hard you try, if you don't take risks, your paintings will not have that extra oomph to it. So that's why I'm taking these risks. And actually, after I finished this painting, I looked it at. I painted this in the morning, and I looked it at night, and then I was like finally happy. Oh, actually, I was happy that I did take that risk and added that really dark uh, building on the side. And at this point, I'm mostly waiting for that the dark wash to dry, because it was a quite a strong watercolor wash. So I think I'm mixing this black because I want to highlight some element. Oh, actually, I'm adding the balcony. So this is going to really focus your eyes into that area, because that's now, like, that point is going to be the most detailed part of the painting, and you can see that I'm adding a little bit more, tad bit more details to the window as well. And I'm not forgetting the other window, because you can't have it disconnected from everything else. So I'm doing all these. Oh, I'm getting notifications. I should find a way to stop notifications from being seen. So, all right. I'm now adding a person. There was a person in the photograph as well, but I've pushed the person a little bit behind, because I didn't really get the hill into this painting. But that's okay, because this is my painting. Not, I'm not replicating the photograph exactly. So yeah, now I've decided to add two people, because that's going to make the scene more interesting. Because viewers will be thinking, oh, like, what, these two people? Like, what's the connection between these two? Like, something to think about. But I guess even if it was just one person, you would be thinking, oh, like, why is that person alone, or something like that. Just adding a bit of curiosity. Oh, now I'm getting a little bit more vertical detail. I saw that there's a directions sign in the photograph, so I've added that, and there was a little stop sign or something at the far end of that building. I'm adding a notion of that. I really like this better, with, like, the notion. We are not adding a complete element. We are adding the notion of that element into our painting. So I'm getting some whites. I think this is to show that there's some highlights in our painting, and like to show that snow which has been collected in the windowsills. Oh, you can see that I'm checking whether the building on the right hand side is dry. Okay, it seems that it is still not dry, so I'm going and adding a bit of color to those rooftops. Now, I really think this was a good idea, because that splash of color, it's not huge. If it was huge, it won't work. But because this is like a tiny splash of color, it works perfectly into the painting. It creates a point for us to go and check out, not just that balcony. Enhancing the shadows a little bit, adding a bit of shadows in the snow, and I think now I'm about to go and add those final details into the right hand side building. I'm doing something to the chimneys. There's not much time left in the painting, so I'm probably going to add those details now. There you go. Like, even though I have made it dark, the windows in there have to be even darker. And in doing this, I still have to respect those perspective lines. So you can see that I'm doing that. while adding that window. Like you can actually see that even better when I'm adding those the couple of smaller windows at the low end. There you see, I'm really respecting the perspective when adding those. I think now that's done. I think the next part is adding the snow on that building, because that's our darkest element. That's where the snow would be quite visible. So I'm adding a little bit of snow at the window sills and the edges of this building, but then I'm just going to go and blot it out a little bit because it's a bit too strong now. Just like subtly blotting it out, and I think now we are almost done. This should be where I will be starting to finish this off. Let's see. I'm just adding some details here. They're not entirely sure whether I should finish this yet or not. Like when your painting is in process, you never know whether it's that. I think much more experienced people than me, they will know, but I've sometimes struggled to know when the painting has ended or not. There you go. I have thought to stop the painting and added my signature, and here you go. This is the final painting. And thank you very much for watching this video, and please like this and subscribe to my channel if you like to see more content from me. Thank you.